Hey everyone, let's talk about money. Specifically, the kind of money mistakes that can really trip you up in your 20s. I've been there, trust me. I've made almost every wrong turn you can imagine when it comes to investing and managing my cash. My 20s were a wild ride of chasing quick bucks, getting burned, and eventually learning some very painful lessons. I'm not here to tell you what to do, but rather to share my own blunders, hoping you can avoid the same headaches I put myself through. Think of this as a chat with a friend who has already stumbled so you don't have to. The first big one for me, and probably for a lot of people, was getting sucked into the get-rich-quick schemes. When I was younger, I saw all these flashy ads, heard whispers about hot stocks, and thought, this is it, this is how I'll make my fortune. I didn't understand the first thing about actual investing risk management, or even just basic market principles. I just saw the potential for huge returns and my brain shut off any logical thinking. It was pure greed, pure ignorance, and a total recipe for disaster. I remember pouring a significant chunk of my hard-earned savings into something I barely understood, simply because someone on a forum said it was going to skyrocket. Spoiler alert, it didn't. It cratered, and I watched my money vanish faster than I could comprehend. The feeling of seeing your savings, the money you worked tirelessly for, just disappear, it is soul-crushing. It taught me a harsh lesson about listening to anonymous sources and trusting my gut over actual research. This wasn't investing, it was gambling, and I was losing badly. Then there was the trend, chasing. Remember when everyone was talking about X, Y, or Z stock? I was right there with them, buying at the peak, fueled by FOMO, the fear of missing out. The moment something started to dip, I'd panic sell, locking in my losses, only to watch it potentially rebound later. This buy high, sell low strategy is exactly what you don't want to do. But in my early 20s, I was a master of it. My emotions ran the show, a little bit of good news, I'd buy more, a little bit of bad news, I'd dump everything. There was no strategy, no long-term vision, just pure reactive trading based on fleeting market sentiment. I convinced myself I was active in the market, when in reality, I was just making expensive mistakes over and over again. It was exhausting, financially draining, and left me with a deep sense of frustration. Another major pitfall was completely ignoring risk management. I'd go all in on a single stock or a single investment idea, putting all my eggs in one basket, diversification. Asset allocation, these were foreign concepts to me. I thought, if this one hits big, I'm set. The problem is, if that one goes bust, you're also set for a huge setback. I had this idea that if I believed in something enough, it would just work out reality. As it often does, had other plans. I remember one particular investment where I put a large portion of my savings into a single company. I was so convinced it was going to be the next big thing, I didn't consider the downside, the potential for failure, or what would happen if my conviction was misplaced. When that company faltered, my portfolio took a massive hit. It was a brutal awakening to the fact that even if you believe in something, risk is always present, and you need a plan for when things don't go your way. Emotional trading, that was a huge one for me. Every market fluctuation felt like a personal attack or a massive opportunity. I'd check my portfolio constantly, letting every green arrow fill me with baseless confidence and every red arrow send me into a spiral of anxiety. My mood would swing wildly based on my investment performance, which is a terrible way to live, and an even worse way to invest. I couldn't separate my emotions from my financial decisions. If I felt good, I was more likely to take risks. If I felt stressed, I was more likely to sell something at a loss just to make the feeling go away. It was a vicious cycle that led to irrational decisions and consistent underperformance. Learning to detach emotionally from my investments was one of the hardest but most crucial lessons I had to learn. It is not about being cold, it is about being rational. I also fell victim to various scams. Looking back, they seem so obvious now, but at the time, when you're young and eager to make money, and perhaps a bit naive, they can be incredibly convincing. I remember one opportunity that promised guaranteed high returns with minimal risk. The red flags were everywhere, but I chose to ignore them. The allure of easy money blinded me to the glaring inconsistencies and the overly aggressive sales tactics. I wanted to believe it so badly that I talked myself into it. Of course, the money I invested disappeared, along with the company and the advisors. It was a humiliating experience, not just for the financial loss, but for realizing how easily I had been manipulated. It taught me a valuable lesson about skepticism, due diligence, and the timeless truth that if something sounds too good to be true, it almost certainly is. After all these painful experiences, the big losses, the sleepless nights, I finally had my wake-up call. I realized I couldn't keep going down this path. The get-rich-quick dream was just a pipe dream, leading me nowhere but deeper into financial trouble. I decided to completely change my approach. I stopped chasing hype and started focusing on solid fundamental principles. I buried myself in books about personal finance, investing, and economics. I learned about budgeting, saving, understanding different asset classes, and the power of compounding. It wasn't glamorous, it wasn't exciting, but it was effective. I started building an emergency fund, something I had always neglected before. I began contributing regularly to retirement accounts, even if it was just a small amount. I focused on low-cost index funds and ETFs, embracing diversification and a long-term perspective. I learned to control my emotions, to not check my portfolio every 5 minutes, and to ride out market fluctuations without panicking. I understood that building wealth is a marathon, not a sprint. It takes patience, discipline, and a consistent effort. There are no shortcuts, and anyone promising them is likely trying to take advantage of you. My relationship with money completely transformed. I went from someone who saw money as a tool for immediate gratification or a means to gamble to someone who views it as a tool for building security, freedom, and a comfortable future. I stopped trying to impress others with expensive purchases and started prioritizing financial stability. It wasn't about becoming rich overnight, but about becoming financially resilient and making smart choices that would benefit me in the long run. Now, my approach is all about stability and calculated risk. I still invest, but with a clear strategy and a deep understanding of what I'm doing. I prioritize saving even when it feels like I don't have much to spare. I'm always looking for ways to improve my financial literacy and to make informed decisions. My goal isn't to hit a jackpot, but to steadily grow my wealth and ensure I have a safety net for whatever life throws my way. So if you're in your 20s and just starting out, or even if you're a bit further along and making some of these same mistakes, please learn from my journey. Don't fall for the hype, don't chase quick gains, and don't let your emotions dictate your financial decisions. Educate yourself, build a solid foundation, and be patient. It might not be the most exciting path, but it is the one that leads to real financial freedom and peace of mind. Your future self will thank you for it. These are just a few of the painful lessons I've learned. My 20s were a messy, expensive classroom, but I came out of it with a much clearer understanding of how money works, and more importantly, how I want to live my life. I'm not some financial guru, just a regular guy who made a lot of mistakes and wants to share what I've learned so you don't have to go through the same struggles. It is about being smart, being patient, and building a foundation that will support you for decades to come. I used to think that investing was all about finding the next big thing, the secret stock that would make me rich. I spent countless hours reading forums, watching videos, and convincing myself that I could outsmart the market. The reality is the market is a beast, and trying to outsmart it usually just leads to getting eaten alive. I learned that slow and steady often wins the race, especially in investing. It is not as exciting to talk about investing in broad market index funds, but it is often a much more reliable path to wealth building. I wish I had understood that sooner. I could have saved myself so much stress and, more importantly, so much money. Another thing I really messed up was not understanding the true cost of debt. In my younger days, I saw credit cards as free money, a way to buy things I couldn't really afford. I carried balances, paid high interest rates, and watched as my debt slowly but surely ate away at my income. It felt like I was constantly running on a treadmill, just trying to keep up with the minimum payments. It was a suffocating feeling, and it limited my options in so many ways. I couldn't save as much, I couldn't invest as much, and it put a constant strain on my finances. Getting out of that debt hole was one of the most liberating experiences of my financial journey. It taught me that debt, especially high-interest debt, is a dangerous game that can quickly spiral out of control if you're not careful. And then there is the whole idea of lifestyle creep. As my income grew, so did my spending. I started buying more expensive things, eating out more, and generally living a more lavish lifestyle. The problem was, I wasn't saving or investing any more than before. All the extra money was just going towards an inflated lifestyle. It felt good in the short term, but it meant I wasn't building any real wealth. I was just spending it as fast as it came in. I saw friends doing the same thing, upgrading their cars, their apartments, their wardrobes, all while their savings remained stagnant. It is a trap many people fall into, believing that increased income automatically means increased financial security. It doesn't. Not if you don't intentionally save and invest the difference. I had to consciously pull back, to question every purchase, and to prioritize saving over immediate gratification. It is still a constant battle, but it is a battle worth fighting. I also realized I was completely underestimating the power of compound interest. When you're young, even small amounts invested consistently can grow into significant sums over time, but I was so focused on trying to get rich quick that I ignored the slow, steady power of compounding. I thought, what is the point of investing a small amount? It won't make a difference. I couldn't have been more wrong. Every dollar I didn't invest early on was a dollar that missed out on years of growth. It is a hard lesson to learn, but it is one of the most important ones for young investors. Start early, invest consistently, and let time do its magic. Don't be like me, waiting until you've made a bunch of mistakes before realizing the power of patience. So, what is the takeaway from all my financial blunders? Well, for starters, don't be afraid to admit you don't know something. I pretended to be an expert when I was completely clueless. and it cost me dearly. Ask questions, seek out reliable information, and don't be ashamed to learn the basics. Second, understand that investing is not a sprint. It is a marathon. Patience and consistency are far more important than trying to time the market or chase the latest hot trend. Third, always manage your risk. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, and understand that every investment carries some level of risk. And finally, keep your emotions in check. Investing is a rational endeavor, not an emotional one. I'm not perfect, and I still have a lot to learn, but I'm in a much better place financially than I was in my early 20s. I've built a solid foundation, and I'm confident that I can continue to build wealth responsibly. My hope is that by sharing my mistakes, you can avoid some of the same pitfalls and start your financial journey on a much stronger footing. It is not about being flawless. It is about learning from your errors and continuously improving. Your 20s are a crucial time to set yourself up for financial success, and I genuinely want to help you navigate that without making the same costly mistakes I did. So take these lessons to heart, do your own research, and build a financial future you can be proud of. It is a journey, not a destination, and every step you take towards financial literacy is a step in the right direction.